Well, happening today, a growing debate over license plate reader cameras in Milford. Police say flock cameras are a valuable tool for fighting crime, but those against it say they raise serious privacy concerns.
Yeah, so some people in Milford have demanded leaders take them down. Your reporter Anna Stansfield live there this morning ahead of that big meeting tonight. So Anna, what are we expecting will happen there?
Well, in that meeting, it'll be between any community member who wants to show up and local police officers. Some of those community members that we've heard from tell us they think these cameras are taking too much of their information. But the police department says this technology is a useful tool. Police tell us these flock cameras came in handy during a big investigation recently, helping them track down the suspects in a deadly home invasion on East Broadway. But some of the people who drive past the cameras daily are concerned. Police officers across the country have been accused of criminally misusing flock camera data, and there are claims that ICE has used that data too. Several deflock Facebook groups have been formed aimed at taking the cameras down. On October 1st, a new state law will require stricter privacy guardrails, limits on data sharing, and prohibiting certain usage by law enforcement. And experts say there's room for regulation.
There's always this trade-off between liberty or privacy on the one hand and safety on the other. And I think the goal here is to come up with reasonable regulations so the police can continue to utilize this technology, but at the same time, people's reasonable privacy rights are not violated by the government.
Now, that meeting here in Milford is set for 6 o'clock tonight, and it'll be happening at the Parson's Auditorium. I'm your reporter live in Milford, Anna Stansfield, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.